Alright guys, another day, another strength. Got another video for you today, and in this one I'm going to talk about my experience with exertion headaches, right? So back when I started training, I had exertion headaches on and off, and they really sucked, right? Basically what happens is it feels like a splitting headache that starts kind of back behind your head, or at least in my case, and it kind of creeps like up across the back and the top of your skull as well, right? So it's pretty miserable, and there's basically no way to train around it because anything that you do is going to set it off. Basically just exerting yourself, right, like the name. Whereas other injuries, like if you have a knee injury, you can still bench, you can still find some other things you can do at the gym. This just like is debilitating, and as soon as it starts happening, like you basically just have to go home. Or you can just try to power through it, but it really is very unpleasant. So at the time I did not. And the reason that it happened initially is just because I was weak all over, right? So getting stronger over time, they went away. I didn't deal with them for a very long time. So it was a number of years, like probably 4 or 5 years that I didn't deal with them, right? Then recently they'd returned, and what brought them back was I was experimenting with high rep squats, doing like more than 10 reps, up to like 12 to 15 and beyond. And usually between like 12 and 15 is where I would start to get the exertion headache, and I'd have to rack the bar, and then it would persist, and then it would kind of like flare up for the next couple of days whenever I would try to train. And so my initial thought was to avoid high rep squats, right? Because you want to not continue to annoy the affected area. And that worked for a little bit, but I thought about it some more, and I wanted to make it go away permanently. And the answer seemed pretty obvious, right? So generally when you have an injury and something hurts during physical activity, it's because that area is weak in some way, right? Whether it's inflammation in the area, which is usually due to it not being strong enough to bear a desired load, right? So let's say your knee's bothering you. It's usually because you are trying to put more stress on the knee than it's adapted to handle, or you are stressing the knee in a way that, basically it's the same thing, right? Like if let's say you're like squatting improperly, essentially what's happening is you're putting extra stress on the knee through the use of like moment force, essentially, right? But so the thought is I had to strengthen my neck area somehow and my head area to prevent the exertion headaches, essentially. So I started doing that, started training my neck, right? So neck training, it works pretty well, right? Just like any other muscle. The muscles of the neck, they're responsible for cervical spine flexion and extension, and then also like this lateral movement right here, right? So neck training works very well, but it looks very silly. I will say that, right? But yeah, so I started off with just neck extensions, which is this way, right? So strengthening the back of the neck here, which is where I was getting the headaches. And then like in very short order, the headaches started to go away. And then I could also, go do the type of squats that I was trying to do without the headaches. I started with just body weight in sets of 25. So the neck area obviously is very important. So I was being very cautious. I didn't want to like load it up and do heavy sets of 5. I don't recommend that. So I started with just body weight and then just added like a little bit of weight at a time. Now I'm up to 15 pounds for about sets of 20. But yeah, I later worked in some neck curls. And then very recently I started doing some lateral extensions as well. So I've been training my neck for probably like a month and a half at this point. Not even that long really. And it only took a couple weeks for the headaches to go away. And my neck just feels better in general. There's a lot less around that same time I was having like neck pains and stuff like that. So yeah, the neck training is helping that go away. And then the other part of it is that in the squat, what I was doing is I was overextending or overflexing rather my neck. So kind of like tilting it this way too much and putting stress back there as well. So I also stopped doing that while squatting, which still happens sometimes, but when it happens now, it doesn't cause an exertion headache because now it's a stronger area. And so I think the strength component is more important. They're both important, obviously, right? But I think with strength, you can overcome a lot more. But yeah, basically this is like a 2-factor model for dealing with injuries in general. So if you have any kind of problem area, any kind of injury, right? The 2-factor model, the 2 factors are, number 1, stop aggravating the area if possible. So most of the time it's something that you're doing during the lift that is usually incorrect, that's causing an issue. And then number 2, strengthen that area in a way that's manageable by applying enough stress to force an adaptation, aka make sure that you're actually training it and getting stronger in what you're doing and not just like going through the motion. So if you have like a rotator cuff issue, right, you can't just like do this and like expect it to get stronger. You have to do something that's actually going to put enough stress on the rotator cuff to demand it to adapt. And then if you want to keep the pain away permanently, then you have to continue to get stronger and run further and further away from the state that you were in, essentially. So like if I want my neck to not hurt anymore, I should get stronger and stronger with my neck training and aim to get as strong as possible, essentially. So I have the biggest buffer possible between a strong neck and a neck that's gonna give me problems, right? But yeah, so you can apply that to any injuries that you have, any issues in your life. That's really it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, goodbye.